In the summer of 1988, a group of undocumented workers vanished without a trace, leaving behind a haunting silence that echoed for decades. Their disappearance, shrouded in mystery, became a cold case that gripped the small town of San Pedro, California. Families were shattered and hopes faded as the years turned into decades with no answers. Then in 2013, a shocking discovery would reignite the flames of investigation. A locked train car was found, abandoned and forgotten, tucked away in a remote corner of a rail yard. What secrets lay hidden inside? As the dust of time settled, the families of the missing workers clung to a flicker of hope, believing that one day the truth would surface. For Maria Torres, the sister of one of the vanished men, the pain of loss was a constant reminder of the past. She often recalled the day her brother Javier left for what he believed would be a better life. "We thought he would come back," she reflected. "We never imagined he would disappear." The case of the missing workers was more than just a local mystery. It symbolized the struggles of countless families seeking a better life in an unforgiving world. The group of men had pooled their resources to travel north, dreaming of jobs that would change their fortunes. But one fateful night, everything changed. They were last seen boarding a train, their destination unknown. When their families reported them missing, authorities initially took the case seriously. But as weeks turned into months and months into years, leads dried up and the investigation waned. The trail grew cold, and the case was left to gather dust in the archives. Maria, however, could not let go. For 25 years, she fought to keep Javier's memory alive, advocating for the recognition of the missing workers' plight. "I knew in my heart something was wrong," she recalled. "My brother would never just disappear. He loved his family. He wanted to come home." Each passing year without answers deepened her resolve, but it also wore on her spirit. She faced skepticism from law enforcement who had long since moved on, dismissing her concerns as the ramblings of a grieving sister. When news broke in 2013 of the discovery of the locked train car, Maria felt a rush of conflicting emotions. Could this be the breakthrough she had long awaited, or just another false hope? The car, rusted and forgotten, held the potential to reveal secrets that had been buried for decades. What could it possibly contain? Was it merely an abandoned relic of a long-ago journey? Or could it hold the key to understanding what happened to her brother and the others? As Maria delved deeper into the investigation, she faced an uphill battle. The authorities were reluctant to reopen the case, treating it as a relic of the past. "They didn't understand how much this meant to me," she said. "To them, it was just another cold case. To me, it was my brother's life." Despite the indifference of those in charge, Maria was undeterred. She began her own research, combing through old police records, interviewing family members of the other missing workers, and seeking out anyone who might have a connection to that fateful night. Along the way, she encountered a series of obstacles. Many of the workers' families had given up hope, resigning themselves to the belief that their loved ones were lost forever. Others were wary of reopening old wounds. Maria found herself grappling with not only the potential truths that could emerge, but also the painful emotions that accompanied them. "I couldn't let fear stop me," she explained. "I owed it to my brother and to the others to find out what really happened." The deeper Maria dug, the more unsettling details emerged. Witnesses recalled strange occurrences around the time of the disappearance. Reports of unusual train activity, shadows lurking in the night, and whispered rumors of a cover-up began to surface. It became increasingly clear that the truth behind the group's disappearance was far from straightforward. Were they victims of a crime that extended beyond the shadows of the rail yard? Or was there a darker secret at play, possibly involving those who were meant to protect them? As Maria pieced together the puzzle, she realized that the locked train car was not just a physical remnant of the past. It was a symbol of the hidden lives of the workers, whose existence had been ignored for far too long. Each new piece of information brought with it a blend of hope and despair, as Maria sought to confront the complexities of her brother's life, the dangers he faced, and the ultimate fate that may have befallen him and his friends. The story of the vanished workers is not simply a tale of loss. It is a reflection of resilience in the face of unimaginable uncertainty. Maria's unwavering dedication to uncovering the truth is a testament to the enduring bond of family, even when shrouded in mystery. As we follow her journey, we are reminded that every cold case holds a story waiting to be told, and that justice, however elusive, may still be within reach. Join us in the next part of this journey as we explore the discovery of the locked train car and the shocking revelations it may hold. The truth is out there waiting to be uncovered, and for Maria and the families of the missing workers, the quest for answers has only just begun. What secrets will the past reveal, and what justice can be found in the echoes of silence? The discovery of the locked train car was a turning point in Maria's search for her brother. A relic from a time long gone, the car stood as a silent witness to the events of that fateful night in 1988. As she approached it for the first time, her heart raced with a mix of hope and trepidation. What lay within those rusted walls could either shatter her world further or provide the answers she so desperately sought. Maria soon learned that the train car had been discovered abandoned in a remote area, hidden from the prying eyes of the public for decades. Authorities had initially dismissed it as a forgotten piece of history, but a sharp-eyed local had noticed the strange markings on its surface, connecting it to the missing workers. Maria's heart sank. Was it possible that her brother's last moments were trapped inside this metal shell? Determined to gain access, Maria reached out to the local police department. However, she was met with indifference. Officers had long since moved on from the case, viewing it as an unfortunate chapter in the annals of time. But Maria was undeterred. She gathered every document, witness statement, and news article related to the disappearance, presenting them to anyone who would listen. With each passing day, Maria's resolve grew stronger, bolstered by a community that began to rally around her. She connected with family members of the other missing workers, and together they organized a small press conference to draw attention to the train car and the mystery surrounding it. Their voices, filled with pain and hope, echoed through the media, reigniting public interest in a case that had long been forgotten. As the story gained traction, a former railroad employee came forward with a chilling account. He described a secretive operation that had taken place in the area at the time of the disappearances, a network of human trafficking that preyed on the vulnerable. His words sent shockwaves through Maria, igniting a terrifying possibility. Could her brother have been caught in something far more sinister than she had ever imagined? Despite the skepticism she faced from law enforcement, Maria pressed on. She enlisted the help of a private investigator, a former detective who had worked similar cases. Together they delved into the records surrounding the train car, uncovering discrepancies that raised more questions than answers. The deeper they dug, the more they realized that the locked train car was not just a vessel of forgotten lives, but a key to unraveling a dark conspiracy that extended far beyond her brother's disappearance. As they pieced together the timeline, Maria found herself haunted by the potential truths hidden within the shadows. The investigation took a toll on her, as she grappled with the fear that the answers she sought might lead her into a web of danger. Yet, driven by love and an unwavering commitment to her brother, Maria pressed forward. In a twist of fate, they obtained permission to finally access the train car, the moment of truth drawing near. But as they prepared to unlock the door, Maria felt an unsettling chill. What would they uncover? Would the past offer closure, or would it reveal a darkness that had been lurking just beneath the surface? In the next chapter of her journey, Maria would confront the haunting reality of what lay within. The truth was waiting, but so were the shadows of those who wished to keep it hidden. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the dimly lit train yard, Maria and her team stood before the rusted doors of the locked train car. Her heart raced, each beat echoing the years of unanswered questions. With trembling hands, she inserted the key into the lock, the metallic click resonating in the stillness. The doors creaked open, revealing a darkness that seemed to swallow the light. A musty odor wafted out, mingling with the scent of rust and decay. Armed with flashlights, they stepped inside, the beam of light illuminating a scene frozen in time. Old crates, tools, and remnants of what appeared to be personal belongings cluttered the floor, each item whispering stories of lives interrupted. As they carefully navigated the narrow space, Maria's eyes were drawn to a corner shrouded in shadows. There, partially hidden beneath a tattered tarp, lay what looked like a duffel bag. With cautious urgency, she approached and pulled it free, her mind racing with possibilities of what it might contain. Inside, she found clothing, men's shirts, shoes, and a worn-out jacket, all bearing the unmistakable signs of heavy use. But it was the small, crumpled photograph tucked into the lining of the jacket that truly took her breath away. It was a faded image of a group of men, laughing and smiling, their faces bright with hope. Among them, Maria recognized her brother. A surge of emotions washed over her, joy, sorrow, and a deeper sense of urgency. Yet this was not just a photograph. It was a clue that connected her brother to others who had vanished. Maria's mind raced with questions. Who were these men? Were they also victims of the same dark fate? With trembling hands, she took out her phone, snapping a picture of the photograph to share with her team later. But as they continued to sift through the contents of the train car, an unsettling sensation gripped Maria. It felt as if they were not alone. She glanced back toward the entrance, half expecting to see the looming figure of someone watching them from the shadows. Dismissing the thought, she focused on the task at hand, but the gnawing feeling of being observed lingered. Determined to press forward, Maria and her team cataloged every item, hoping to piece together the story of the men who had once traveled this route. But time was not on their side. Each moment felt charged with the weight of the past, and the air thickened with an ominous sense of urgency. It was clear that someone or something was intent on keeping the truth buried. As they prepared to leave the train car, Maria felt a chill creep down her spine. The photograph felt like a beacon, illuminating a path that had long been shrouded in darkness. But what lay ahead was fraught with danger. The mystery surrounding her brother's disappearance was deepening, intertwining with secrets that could expose powerful individuals who thrived on silence. With a renewed sense of purpose, Maria made a vow to uncover the truth no matter the cost. But little did she know the shadows were already closing in, and the confrontation with the forces working against her was imminent. Each step she took led her closer to a revelation that would challenge everything she thought she knew about her brother's fate. The chilling reality was that the truth often bore a price, and Maria was about to pay it in ways she could never have imagined. Maria returned home, the photograph clutched tightly in her hand. It felt as though it carried the weight of her brother's absence, a reminder of the life that was stolen from her family. Each time she looked at it, she could almost hear the laughter of the men who had vanished, their voices echoing in her mind like a haunting melody. She began to research the names and faces captured in that image, combing through archives, speaking to anyone who might have known them. The more she learned, the more she felt an unsettling sense of connection to the past. The stories of these men were filled with hope, dreams of a better life, and aspirations that abruptly ended on that fateful day. As days turned into weeks, she found herself facing a wall of silence. Many were reluctant to speak, their eyes clouded with fear. Rumors swirled around the community, whispers of a cover-up, a conspiracy so deeply rooted that it had woven its threads into the very fabric of their lives. Maria grew more determined, feeling the urgency of time pressing down on her. She knew that the truth was out there, hidden behind layers of deceit and intimidation. One evening, a breakthrough arrived in the form of a former railroad worker who had been a reluctant witness to the events of that day. He approached her cautiously, glancing over his shoulder as if he feared someone might be watching. The man spoke in hushed tones, revealing fragments of a story that sent chills down Maria's spine. He mentioned seeing suspicious activity near the train car just days before the men vanished, a gathering that seemed innocuous at first glance but was anything but. As he recounted his memories, Maria felt a growing sense of dread. The pieces were falling into place, yet the enormity of what this might mean weighed heavily on her heart. She pressed him for more details, but he hesitated, his fear palpable. "You don't know who you're dealing with," he warned, his voice trembling. "They'll do anything to keep this quiet." Undeterred, Maria resolved to dig deeper, determined to confront whatever shadows loomed over her brother's fate. She reached out to the families of the other missing men, hoping to find allies in her quest for the truth. Together they began to share their stories, creating a network of support that reignited their hopes and fears. But as Maria pressed on, the sense of danger grew. Strange encounters began to plague her. A car followed her one evening as she left a meeting, its headlights glaring menacingly in her rearview mirror. The feeling of being watched became an ever-present companion, gnawing at her resolve. Despite the risks, Maria pressed forward, fueled by the belief that she was on the verge of uncovering something monumental. Each interview, each piece of evidence brought her closer to the heart of the mystery. Yet, with each step she took, the shadows seemed to deepen, tightening around her. It was clear that the truth was not only elusive but also fiercely protected. As she pieced together the fragments of that fateful day, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was getting closer to a confrontation that would test her courage in ways she could not yet imagine. The tangled web of lies and secrets was about to unravel, and with it, the dark reality of what happened to the men who had once dared to dream. As Maria delved deeper into the tangled web of her investigation, a chilling realization began to take shape. The interviews with those who had seen her loved ones last were not merely fragments of memories, but echoes of something much darker. Each recollection seemed to lead her closer to a hidden truth, one that threatened to dismantle everything she thought she knew. It was during one such interview that a name surfaced, a name that sent shivers down her spine. George Whitaker. He was a figure once revered in the community, a pillar of strength who had inexplicably distanced himself from the lives of the missing men. Friends turned to whispers when his name was mentioned. Maria's instincts screamed at her. There was more beneath the surface. Determined to confront this new lead, Maria reached out to Whitaker. She found him in a quaint cafe, a facade of normalcy concealing the secrets he carried. As they spoke, his demeanor shifted, revealing a man burdened with untold guilt. He became evasive when the conversation turned to the day of the disappearance, his eyes darting nervously around the room as if searching for an escape. But Maria was not there to let him go easily. "You know something, don't you?" She pressed, her voice steady despite the growing fear in her chest. In that moment, Whitaker's facade cracked. He hesitated, and with that hesitation, Maria felt the weight of the truth hovering just out of reach. Suddenly, in a seemingly innocuous gesture, he pulled out a photograph from his wallet. It was a faded snapshot of her loved ones, smiling in the sun, unaware of the darkness that loomed ahead. "I had no choice," he murmured, barely above a whisper. They were in too deep. Maria's heart raced. What did he mean by that? The implications of his words twisted like a knife in her gut. She pressed further, her questions sharper now, demanding clarity. But Whitaker's expression shifted from remorse to anger, his voice rising as he declared, "Some things are better left buried." In that moment, Maria understood that the truth of her loved one's fate was not just a simple disappearance. It was a complex web of betrayal, perhaps linked to something far more sinister than she had ever imagined. The fear of the unknown loomed larger than before, but so did her determination to uncover the full story. As she left the cafe, the weight of Whitaker's revelation hung heavy in the air. What could he possibly be hiding? With renewed resolve, Maria knew she was standing on the precipice of a revelation that would change everything. The shadows that once felt like a suffocating presence now fueled her fire, but the stakes were rising. As she prepared to dig deeper into the connections between Whitaker and the events of that fateful day, she couldn't shake the feeling that there were those who would stop at nothing to keep the truth buried. The game had changed, and Maria was now playing for her life. As she drove home, thoughts raced through her mind. What if the men were not just victims but players in a dangerous game? What if they had uncovered something that put them in the crosshairs of something far bigger? In the world she was unraveling, the lines between victim and perpetrator were blurring, and with every revelation, Maria felt the weight of the unknown pressing down harder. The tangled threads of her loved ones' lives were pulling tight, and she was determined to follow them to their bitter end. The truth was out there, and with every ounce of her being, Maria vowed to uncover it no matter the cost. As Maria settled into her routine, the weight of the investigation loomed ever larger. Her nights were filled with restless sleep, haunted by fragmented memories of her father and the faces of the men who had vanished alongside him. Each day brought new leads, but also new dangers. The deeper she delved, the more it seemed that someone was always watching. Determined to confront the past, Maria reached out to former co-workers of her father. Many were reluctant to speak, their fear palpable, but a few agreed to meet in dimly lit corners of cafes, whispering about shadows that still lingered from the past. These conversations opened the door to a network of undocumented workers who had once been close-knit, sharing stories that hinted at an intricate web of exploitation and cover-ups. One name kept surfacing: Luis Ortega, a man who had been closely associated with her father. He was said to have been in the area during the summer of the disappearances, but had seemingly vanished from the face of the earth. With each mention, Maria felt the familiar pulse of hope and trepidation. Days turned into weeks and the tension in the air grew thicker. She followed every lead, tracing Luis's last known whereabouts, piecing together snippets of information from reluctant neighbors and old friends. As she drew closer to the truth, she uncovered whispers of a secret meeting, a clandestine gathering of workers who had uncovered something dangerous about their employer, Whitaker. The more Maria uncovered, the more the pieces of the puzzle began to fit. Luis and her father had been more than just friends. They were part of a movement, a fight against the injustices they faced. But as she connected the dots, she encountered resistance from the authorities who had long since deemed her father's case unsolvable. Their skepticism echoed in her ears, but she pressed on, fueled by the memories of those who had suffered in silence. Maria's resolve hardened as she unearthed evidence of a hidden ledger, a record that could expose the dark dealings of Whitaker's operation. With the help of a sympathetic local journalist, she managed to secure a meeting with an anonymous source who claimed to have known Luis and the true nature of the meetings. But as the hour approached, a sense of dread washed over her. What would she uncover? Would the truth be too dangerous, too explosive to handle? She felt like she was standing on the edge of a precipice, teetering between the need for justice and the very real threat to her safety. As she arrived at the agreed location, the tension was palpable. The shadows loomed larger and she could feel the weight of unseen eyes. The truth was within reach, but so too were the dangers that lurked in the dark corners of her father's past. In that moment, Maria realized that the search for justice was not just about uncovering what had happened, but also about preparing to face the demons that had been concealed for far too long. The confrontation loomed, and Maria braced herself for the storm that was about to unleash. As Maria stepped into the dimly lit cafe, her heart raced. The air was thick with unspoken words, and the distant murmur of conversations only heightened her anxiety. She spotted her contact sitting in the corner, a figure shrouded in mystery. He was a man of few words, but the gravity of his presence suggested he held the weight of untold stories. "You're Maria," he stated, his voice low and cautious. She nodded, drawing in a deep breath to steady her nerves. "I know about your father, and I know about Whitaker," he continued, glancing around as if ensuring they weren't being watched. "But the truth goes deeper than you think. Luis wasn't just a worker, he was part of something bigger." Maria leaned in closer, her voice trembling with urgency. "What do you mean?" The man hesitated, his eyes flickering with fear. There were rumors, gatherings late at night, plans to expose Whitaker's operation. But they weren't just planning to leave. They were plotting something dangerous. With every word, the pieces of the puzzle began to shift and align in Maria's mind. Luis had been a part of something that transcended mere survival. He may have been embroiled in a conspiracy that threatened powerful people. And then he vanished, she whispered, the realization hitting her like a tidal wave. What happened to those plans? Whitaker found out, he replied grimly. He silenced anyone who dared to stand against him. Your father. It wasn't just his life on the line. It was the lives of many. Her heart sank as she grasped the implications of his words. The danger was real, and she was now tangled in a web of secrets that could cost her everything. She had to know more, but fear curled around her spine like a serpent. Suddenly, the cafe door swung open with a jingle, and Maria's breath caught in her throat. A group of men entered, their demeanor assertive, their eyes scanning the room. They were too familiar with the shadows, too comfortable in the dark. "Maria, we need to go," the man urged, his voice urgent. She felt the pull of urgency, a sense of impending threat, but the need for answers anchored her to the spot. "What about the ledger?" she pressed, desperation tinged with defiance. "It's not safe. They'll come for you if they know you're onto them," he insisted. But Maria couldn't back down. Not now. She was closer than ever to the truth, and she wouldn't let fear dictate her next move. "No. I need to know what happened to my father and the others." The man stared at her, a mixture of admiration and concern in his gaze. "Then you have to be careful. Whitaker's network is vast. If you're going to confront him, you'll need proof, something concrete to back your claims." Maria nodded, resolve hardening in her heart. "I have to find that ledger. It could be the key to bringing Whitaker down." With that, they slipped out of the cafe, the tension in the air thickening as they stepped back into the world beyond the shadows. Maria was now a beacon of hope not just for her father, but for countless others who had suffered in silence. Her quest for justice would not be easy, but the stakes had never been higher. As she prepared to delve deeper into the darkness surrounding Whitaker, Maria understood that the closer she got to the truth, the more perilous her journey would become. The trail led her back to the locked train car, where everything had begun. Secrets lay in wait, and Maria was ready to confront whatever awaited her in the shadows. She could feel it, an impending storm brewing, and she was determined to face it head-on. As Maria approached the train car, the air grew heavy with anticipation and dread. Memories flooded her mind, images of her father laughing, working alongside his friends, dreams of a better future in a foreign land, all taken in an instant. She steeled herself, knowing that whatever she uncovered inside might bring her one step closer to the truth, but could also unleash a tempest she wasn't prepared for. The locks on the train car had long rusted, but years of neglect hadn't made them any easier to break. Armed with only a crowbar and her unwavering determination, Maria forced the door open, the screech of metal against metal echoing in the stillness. As she stepped inside, she was met with an overwhelming darkness, the faint scent of mildew and decay lingering in the air. Her heart raced as her eyes adjusted to the gloom. The interior was cluttered with remnants of lives interrupted, old crates, a tattered blanket, and scattered papers that had once held vital information. But it was the corner of the car that caught her eye, a small wooden box, half hidden beneath a pile of debris. With trembling hands, she pried it open, revealing a collection of yellowed documents and photographs. Each image was a haunting reminder of those who had vanished, their faces frozen in time. Among them was a picture of her father, beaming with pride, standing next to a group of men she recognized from her childhood. But it was the ledger, tucked away beneath the photographs, that ignited her hope. With a sense of urgency, Maria began flipping through the pages. The handwriting was frantic, detailing transactions, names, and locations, each entry a thread leading to the dark web of Whitaker's operations. As she delved deeper, the enormity of what she uncovered became clear. This ledger was a map of betrayal and exploitation, connecting her father's disappearance to a network of undocumented workers who had been systematically silenced. Suddenly, a noise echoed outside, shattering the silence. A distant voice, too familiar. Her heart sank as she recognized the sound of approaching footsteps. Panic surged through her veins. She had to hide the ledger. It could be the evidence that would expose Whitaker, but in the wrong hands, it could also mean her end. Maria quickly stuffed the ledger into her bag just as the train car door creaked open. Shadows loomed at the threshold, and she pressed herself against the wall, holding her breath. She peered through a crack, her heart pounding in her chest as she watched two men enter, their expressions unreadable. They were part of Whitaker's crew, and they were searching for something, or someone. As they scoured the car, Maria could hear snippets of their conversation. "We can't let anyone find out about what happened," one said, his voice low and menacing. "If we don't handle this, we'll all be in deep trouble." The other nodded, worry etched across his face. "What if she knows? We've got to find her before she finds us." The realization hit her like a thunderbolt. They were searching for her. The walls of the train car seemed to close in around her as she weighed her options. She could confront them, but with only the ledger and her fear as allies, it felt like a suicide mission. Or she could retreat, gather her strength, and devise a plan. As the men turned their backs, Maria seized the moment. Quietly, she slipped out of the car and into the shadows, her heart racing as she navigated the narrow path back to safety. The ledger, her lifeline, now rested heavily in her bag, but the threat had never been more real. She had to act quickly. The deeper she dug, the more dangerous the game became. With Whitaker's men hot on her trail, Maria knew she was racing against time. The truth was within reach, but so was peril. She had to prepare for the confrontation that was now inevitable. The storm was coming, and she had to be ready to face it head-on. Maria's heart pounded in her chest as she emerged from the train yard, every instinct urging her to flee. The ledger, crammed with names and dates, contained secrets that could unravel everything. Yet she knew retreat was not an option. Too many lives had been lost and too many families left in torment. She spent the next few days piecing together her findings, poring over the ledger late into the night. Each entry painted a chilling picture of undocumented workers, their hopes dashed, their fates intertwined with danger. Maria could feel the weight of their stories pressing upon her. She needed to bring this to light, but how? As she researched further, she stumbled across an old news article that mentioned Whitaker's construction projects, a facade that masked something far more sinister. It detailed a series of unexplained disappearances, all connected to his operations. The pieces began to align. Whitaker wasn't just a businessman. He was the architect of this nightmare. With renewed determination, Maria reached out to former workers, families of the missing, and anyone who might have information. Many were reluctant to speak, fearful of retribution. Others, however, were eager to share their stories, their voices trembling with suppressed anger and loss. Each account added depth to the chilling tapestry she was weaving, a picture of fear, exploitation, and a powerful man who had evaded justice for too long. But it wasn't just the shadow of Whitaker that loomed over her. As Maria connected the dots, she sensed she was being watched. The tension in her gut grew. It was no longer just a quest for truth. Someone was tracking her movements, and she could no longer discern friend from foe. One evening, as she prepared to meet a key witness, an ex-employee who had gone missing for several months before resurfacing, she received an anonymous message. "Stop digging, or you'll regret it." The threat sent shivers down her spine, yet it only fueled her resolve. She had come too far to back down now. The night of the meeting, Maria approached the dingy diner, her pulse quickening with each step. She scanned the parking lot looking for familiar faces, but there was only the low hum of the streetlights. As she entered, she spotted her contact sitting at a booth, his face drawn and weary. Just as she slid into the seat, a flicker of movement caught her eye. Two men stood outside, their postures tense and aggressive, scanning the diner as if searching for someone. Her stomach twisted with fear. The moment she had dreaded was upon her. Confrontation was unavoidable. "Are you ready to tell me what you know?" Maria asked, leaning closer, urgency lacing her voice. The man hesitated, his eyes darting to the window. "They're dangerous, Maria. You have to stop." Before he could finish, the door swung open, and the two men stepped inside. Maria's heart sank. They weren't just there to intimidate. She could feel the impending storm brewing. As they approached, the weight of the ledger felt heavier than ever. Maria knew she had to summon every ounce of courage. The truth was within reach, but now she faced the very people who had sought to bury it. The confrontation was here, and with it, a cascade of secrets ready to be unleashed. With her heart racing, Maria took a deep breath, preparing to face the very shadows that had haunted her family for so long. The two men approached the booth, their expressions a mix of arrogance and fear. Maria locked eyes with them, her resolve unwavering. "You know who I am," she said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her. "And you know what you did." The taller of the two smirked, attempting to project confidence. "You should walk away while you still can, girl. You're in over your head." But Maria was undeterred. She had spent years piecing together fragments of the past, each clue leading her closer to the truth that had eluded her for so long. "You're right about one thing," she replied, her tone sharp. "I am in over my head, but you underestimated how far I would go for my sister." The room fell silent as the tension thickened. The men exchanged glances, their bravado faltering. Maria pressed on, revealing the evidence she had gathered, an intricate web of deceit that connected them to her sister's disappearance. As the pieces clicked into place, the facade of control they had maintained began to crumble. The confrontation escalated, and the truth spilled forth like a dam breaking. What had begun as a simple abduction had spiraled into a dark world of human trafficking, where innocent lives were exploited for profit. Maria's sister was but one of many victims, lost in a system designed to silence her cries. With each revelation, Maria felt the weight of her family's pain transform into a burning determination. She contacted the authorities, who had once dismissed her pleas. This time, armed with undeniable evidence and the courage to confront her sister's tormentors, justice was finally within reach. The ensuing investigations led to arrests, as the criminal network unraveled before the eyes of law enforcement. The two men, once so powerful in their malevolence, were confronted with the consequences of their actions. As they were taken away in handcuffs, Maria felt a surge of bittersweet relief. Though her sister could never return, the truth had emerged from the shadows, illuminating the darkness that had shrouded their lives for far too long. In the days that followed, as the media covered the story and the community rallied in support, Maria found solace in the outpouring of empathy and the collective demand for justice. This case was not just about loss. It was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the unyielding quest for truth. It reminded us that even in the deepest sorrow, there is a flicker of hope, a reminder that every voice matters and every story deserves to be heard. As we reflect on Maria's journey, we are left with a profound question. How far would you go to uncover the truth? In a world often shrouded in darkness, let her story be a beacon of hope for all those seeking justice against the odds.